Hello. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Biology Scavenger Hunt, which is an inquiry-based method that I've worked on with two colleagues, Stephanie Dance Barnes and Catherine Thorington, both of whom were at Winston-Salem State University with me at the time we created this, although they've moved on to greener pastures since. The Biology Scavenger Hunt came about because of a scientific literacy requirement that had been put into the general education outcomes for my university, Winston-Salem State. According to the university's criteria for scientific literacy, students who are scientifically literate should be able to develop questions, should be able to engage the natural world, connect science and society, obtain quality scientific information, identify the underlying scientific issues behind a larger topic, use scientific evidence to support a position. These 6 criteria were expected to be assessed and trained in the students in all introductory science courses. As you can imagine, if you've ever taught an introductory science course, this was a huge challenge. Introductory biology classes at Winston-Salem State are quite large, sometimes 60 to as many as 200 and 250 students even a few times. And of course, all introductory biology classes have to deliver a large amounts of content. For instance, if you teach general biology, you have to teach about cells and molecules and biochemistry and genetics and evolution and ecology and anatomy and physiology and zoology and botany and a bunch of other things I haven't even listed here. How do you have room to also teach the students these other 6 skills? Additionally, traditional exams of the sort that we were using at the time in introductory biology are good at assessing content knowledge, but they're not so good at assessing things that the scientific literacy criteria are asking us to address. The other problem we often have in these introductory courses, many of which are non-majors courses, the rest of them are freshman majors courses for students who may not even stay in the major after they've had a year of biology because they're just exploring. Often these courses don't engage the students. Students just don't come in initially already interested in biology, and they have low enthusiasm, and this leads to poor student compliance. So we needed to come up with a way that we could assess these criteria and also get the students engaged. And our solution to this was what we call the scavenger hunt. This is a semester-long project that students engage in that can be done either individually if it's a small class or in groups if it's a large class. These consist of multiple prompts written by the instructor, as few as 14 if they're doing it individually, to as many as 24 if they're doing it in a group, and we've done numbers in between. The point is there are a lot of these prompts. The students, either individually or as a group, assemble a portfolio of responses to these prompts, and then they are assessed. Each prompt is matched to one of the scientific literacy criteria, and because there are 6 criteria but 14 or more prompts, that means that each criterion is addressed by multiple prompts, which allows redundancy when we're trying to assess this. They're not being assessed just on one way they engage the natural world. There are 2 or 3 or 4 ways we've asked them to engage the natural world, and we can assess each of those. The scavenger hunt, then, we would make a very large portion of the course grade from 12% in general biology to, in my environmental science class, as much as 28%. This large proportion of the course grade forces the students to take it seriously and actually spend some time and try to get a good grade on it. In my course, it's worth more than an exam. And that means they can make up for a poor exam grade with a good showing in multiple responses to scavenger hunt prompts. So let me give you some examples of a scavenger hunt prompt so that you can see what we're talking about. The criterion we're going to be working with in this example is engaging the natural world. And my prompt in environmental science is find me a biodiversity hotspot. It can be on campus or in your neighborhood. It has to have at least 5 different species present. I arbitrarily chose that as a workable number for the students after some trial and error. They have to take pictures of each species and identify that species using online sources, and then speculate on why this locality is a hotspot. And now, of course, they have to cite their sources. And then they can submit me a document, either in person or online, depending on the format of the course, with the photos and their text. So that it helps me get them engaging the natural world. Another criterion we have is being able to obtain high-quality scientific information. And the prompt I gave them for this is document me an invasive species. Find me a map that shows the spread of an invasive species, any one you want, you pick it, and then describe what the evidence is for how this species invaded where it currently is, and list 3 negative impacts that that species is having on its ecosystem. And of course, they have to cite their sources. They would then submit me a document that includes the map, the text, and the sources. So let me show you one of the responses to these prompts. This was last semester, the online version of the course done individually, and this student chose the European green crab. And remember, there are several things he's supposed to do. First, he was supposed to include a map, which he did, and he even gave me a photo, which isn't required for what the crab looks like. He then has a section where he describes the history of the invasion, and then he has 3 negative impacts. And he cited his sources, and you'll notice that these are primary sources like Marine Biology and the Journal of Biogeography. This is a freshman in a non-science majors class, just environmental science for non-science students, and he is going to primary papers to get his information, which is exactly what we want him to do, using quality scientific information. Obviously, this student got a very good score on this particular assignment. There are lots of other prompts you could ask. In my environmental biology class, I asked them to photograph 4 items from their environment and describe their impact on the student. Calculate and report your ecological footprint and describe 3 ways you would reduce it. Investigate a local community and describe 2 species interactions, like competition or predation. Document the plight of an endangered species. Write a letter to somebody who's a leader in your community about an environmental issue you care about. There are lots of other prompts you could do depending on the course. So there are some real advantages to the scavenger hunt. One is you can use it with any topic. All you have to do is come up with a prompt appropriate to animal behavior or in general biology or environmental science or ecology, whatever you wish. Students get to respond to these prompts based on their interest. So although I choose the prompt, the student chooses the hotspot or the species or what they're going to write their letter about, which means they take ownership of this response, and that makes them more engaged. It also gives us an ability to assess a lot of different things rather than just content knowledge. We can assess deep understanding because the students can't memorize the scavenger hunt items, and we can assess whether they're making connections among ideas. There are, of course, some challenges. It takes a lot of time to grade these, depending on how many prompts you have, and we recommend that large classes use groups of 5 or 6 so that you don't have to grade as many items. Some groups, if you're using groups, are going to have personal conflicts between the members, and you may be called upon to be a referee, which can be frustrating. And of course, you do have to deal with the possibility of plagiarism with these open-ended assignments, especially if you're doing on-paper submissions. If you have them do it electronically, you can use an electronic plagiarism checker, which is what I do. So that's pretty much how the scavenger hunt works. I don't have time to share any more than that with you, but we'll be happy to share our instructions to students, our grading rubrics, and our prompts if you wish. And please feel free to contact me with any questions you may have.